Mark, I want to touch on something that you're very passionate about, something that...
Sure.
You're a blacksmith or a part-time blacksmith.
I'm not really. I'm an amateur wannabe hobbyist.
Hobbyist?
Who occasionally gets to work with blacksmiths, sure.
Wait, that's not a normal hobby. I mean, it's not what an 80% or 90% of the population would get into. How did you get into it?
Look, probably not. I blame my wife.
You do?
Many years ago...
Mate, you better be careful about what you say here.
many years ago, she, for a birthday present, gave me this little wrapped up parcel. And when I opened it, it had literally a rusty piece of steel and a couple of bits of wood and a few brass pins in it.
Okay.
And it was all sort of packaged up, and it kind of said knife making kit on it.
Interesting.
And so I, being the modern guy I am, went on YouTube and had a look at how to make a knife, and there were some instructions in the kit. And so I, got some sandpaper and a grinder and, some bits and pieces, and I made this knife. And I polished it up and, got finer and finer sandpaper and made it sharper and sharper. And then I just had this one step left, which was the heat treating. And they had an open day at Everleigh Works, which is a blacksmithing shop in Sydney.
Yep.
Used to be an old railway workshop, and now it's run by the Willy Wonka of blacksmithing, right?
What's his name?
Matt Mewburn.
Right.
He's a legend. And anyway, so I took it along to their open day, and there were some experienced blacksmiths there, and they looked at it and they talked through the process and said it looks pretty good. And they looked at it a little bit more and said, so how did you go with the heat treating? And I said, well, I haven't done that bit yet. And they all burst out laughing. Right. Now, it turns out that when you heat treat the knife, if you sharpen it to a sharp edge and then heat treat it, you'll end up with a nice little ripple on the sharp bit. Right.
Okay.
I didn't know that. It wasn't written in the instructions. I skipped that bit in the video because it was more than 3 minutes long, and I probably left that bit out at the end. And so they said, we actually do courses and teach you, how not just to grind, but how to actually forge. And I go, with a hammer and an anvil? I go, yeah, look around. So I went along and started doing his courses, and I did course after course, and I made a herb chopper, and I made an axe. It took 4 days to make this pattern-welded axe that looked really good. And I did more and more of his courses, and I started going along more and more to his blacksmith shop, and eventually I got my own anvil and my own furnace. Yeah. And I learned how to use his big, heavy power hammer and all the tools there. Yeah. And it's a fantastic community. It's a great group of people. They don't just make axes and knives. I made lots of hammers and tongs, and I made a fence and some gates for home door handles, and I made my wife a rose. And all sorts of things. It's a really great hobby. It's almost a lost art, and one of the great things about it is you get to make tools that you then use to continue the craft, which I think is just a really great way of doing it. And I'm an engineer by profession, and there's a lot of engineering in the heat treating and the size and the shape and the chemical formulation of the steels you use and
have
how
you attempted to make a sword yet? A Japanese sword? The one you always see in the movie.
Yeah, you see them in the movie. I haven't. I've made some nice knives, but nothing in the sword department yet. No,
oh, man.
No.
It
takes a lot of effort.
I bet it does.
And heating a long piece of steel and not heating it in bits is difficult. Matt's got some furnaces that he can do that with, but they're very big oil-fired furnaces, and they take a long time to heat up. And
Give it a go though.
Yeah, maybe a sword one day. One day.
Yeah, make a TikTok video and put it on TikTok.
And put it on No.
No. This guy straight up, nah, I'm not going to do that. Put it up on YouTube, mate.
Maybe YouTube, that's right. For old people, as my kids would remind me.
Yeah, you're not on TikTok though.
No.
Yeah, talking about kids though.
Yeah.
Shout out to your boy. What's his name?
To Alex, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Alex. I said I was going to New Zealand and, doing all this work, and I had to meet this guy, and I've got to wait around while he does these podcasts. And he says, why don't you go on the podcast? So thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex, for getting Mark here. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. No, mate, it's been really interesting chatting with you today, and for all your insights. I really do appreciate your time. And
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me on.
Cheers, mate.
See you later.